Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. Michael, are you going to record this one real quick?
It's
Are
recording.
you
Yeah.
guys both?
Aaron
Yeah.
is.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Thanks. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming today. I figured this would be a little bit of a more popular talk than usual. Grad students curious about kind of getting into that academic route there. So, my name is Eric, Eric Chacho. I'm a career consultant with Career Services here at the University of Idaho. Um, Today, we'll talk about the academic job search. Uh, so we'll move up to let's start with this kind of slide here, see if anybody's familiar with these kinds of stories, maybe around the internet, maybe cruising Reddit, coming across professors going to a job search, looking to see if they can, I've got all this funding, my H index, it's way through the roof. I've got all these publications, but I'm not finding anything. Screw it, I'm just going to go into private industry. Or, maybe you've actually been able to submit those applications and you hear nothing. You're checking all those boxes and you're going, what's going on? I'm perfectly qualified. Or you're looking to apply for some of those academic postings and it went up 23 hours ago and there's already 100 people who've applied for that job. And you're starting to feel a little bit of a kind of dejection there. So these are going to be touching a lot of the topics that we'll cover today, kind of the ins and outs of navigating this process. So I'll begin with career services, a little about who we are, the service that we provide. We'll shift into kind of defining a lot of those roles in academia. It's not just professorships. Then we'll talk about searching for the positions and then finish up with kind of interviewing, how that goes, tips and tricks for conducting that interview process. And if we have any time at the end, yeah, please throw those questions either in the chat or throw them straight at me. Um, so, as I said before, my name is Eric. I'm a career consultant with the University of Idaho with Career Services. Our slogan here, kind of catchy. I always mess it up. Your future is our mission. Essentially, whereas most of the programs here on campus are concerned with what you do while you're here, we care about what you do while you're here. We're really concerned with what happens once you leave the university. For graduate students, once you guys graduate, where you go with your careers. One, what do you want to do? Two, how do you get there? What does that roadmap look like? A lot of the things that we help with, graduate school applications, well, congratulations. You guys are already in grad school, so you've gotten through that hard process. But the interview prep, you guys have probably been through interviews previous in your life. I will usually ask, I can't get a show of hands. Maybe I can't get a show of hands. Who here has had an interview? Excellent. You guys have fun doing that? No, no one ever has fun. There's always one or two extroverts in the crowd who go, "Yeah, it was a blast. I loved talking about my stories." We like those people. They're great people. Most of us generally go into an interview, don't quite feel as comfortable doing that. Career services, we have a lot of strategies for how to successfully navigate interviews. We can talk about that, how to prep for it, salary and benefit negotiations, how to network, how to do that job search. We're going to talk about some of that today, prepping your documents, prepping your CVs, prepping your research statements. I have done grad school a couple of times, so I've been there myself. I've been in the trenches. I know the blood, sweat, and tears that comes along with it. I can help you guys with that process. So, especially as you're looking to move forward with your academic trajectories. Number one way to find information about us is through the website. Put a giant asterisk there. I know the website has its own unique qualities, let's say, but there's still a lot of great information up there on the UI website, on Career Services page. If you want to make appointments one-on-one, which you can as students, you guys also have access to our service even after you graduate. This is a really important point. Not a lot of universities do this. Alumni, when you guys graduate, you have free access to career services. So you can come back if you're struggling with that job search, if you're running into maybe some rejections, you're thinking, I think there's something I need to do to fine tune this thing, or I'm not quite ready for this interview. I want to do a mock interview. We can do that. I can help you with that. Handshake is the number one to schedule those one-on-one appointments. All of our career consultants here have graduate school experience. We have industry experience. We have experience in quite a few different things. Please come up and see us. Handshake's linked directly to our calendars, so it makes it easy to see when our availability is. If you go there and you go to that Career Center tab, you'll see make an appointment. Alrighty, so let's dive into kind of that first section there, academic roles. Well, it's important to know Academia does not just consist of professorships. A lot of you guys are headed down that road, perfectly fine, but there are other things out there. The number one stop that a lot of people will go to is kind of the postdoc. This is very common on the road to professorship. You will do one, two, three different postdocs, multiple years. This is a very common stop. This is a destination where you're there to kind of build up your research body. You're funded exclusively to do a lot more research, pump out a lot more papers, kind of round out your profile and your presence within your community. Uh, Adjunct positions, instructor, dedicated instructor, lecturer positions. These are not research positions. These are full-time teaching positions also exist. Visiting professors is another common position. People will hit the road and start doing contractual work of visiting different universities to teach on different topics. Uh, Obviously, assistant, associate professors, full professors. Um, so talking a little bit more about what some of these positions look like. As I said before, that postdoc, that position is really your first destination, generally speaking, after the PhD. It's quite uncommon that someone these days jumps straight into the professor role with the PhD. One of the places you will go right off the bat is a postdoc. These are anywhere from 1 to nowadays 3, 4 years. Really depends upon the funding for that position. Um, this is usually that first stop where you essentially continue on with the work that you've been doing in your field, really building off of a lot of that PhD work, working with a new PI, trying to expand your presence, pumping out as many papers as you can. You'll How many of you guys have ever met any postdocs on this campus? People have interacted with some of the postdocs. They tend to be very busy people. They're doing a lot of writing. Yeah, they're kind of in overdrive. They're doing that job search, but they're also trying to, like I said, really beef up their CV. Uh, the stop after that can often be an adjunct professor. This is someone who might be part-time. They could be on a tenure track, not necessarily. They could be permanent. These are usually contracted employees who are going to teach a few classes, and they can have kind of different assignments at several universities. It is not uncommon to be teaching at multiple colleges or universities, not just a four-year institution, but certainly community colleges, state colleges. These are also viable avenues for continuing on within academia. Teaching at, I don't want to say, yeah, teaching at those kind of two-year institutions, teaching at more some of those technical community colleges, also a viable place to get off to. Now, instructors, lecturers. This is kind of a separate category from research. A lot of people's primary focus is research. However, that being said, there's oftentimes a heavy teaching load that comes with those research positions. Having some more instructional experience can be very beneficial. One of the considerations when committees are looking to hire new faculty, have you taught? We have a course that needs to be taught. We have a couple of courses that need to be taught. We need someone who's got some expertise. One, doing that, the actual teaching in and of itself, which is a dedicated skill set. We have all been in the classroom and we have all seen professors who may or may not have that dedicated skill set there. Teaching is something you can't just dive right into. So having a little bit of experience, being able to develop syllabi and course materials, getting an instructor position, a lecturer position can be a great way to beef up that aspect of your CV. These are generally not tenure, and these are usually contractual, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year contracts. Visiting scholars, these are people kind of, has anyone ever heard of ooh, I'm trying to blank on it. Uh, I'm drawing the blank on it. Within the medical field, we will often have traveling nurses. Has anyone ever heard of that as a career? Very similar. Hospitals in demand needs that extra assistance. Universities, I need someone to come in. I have a professor on sabbatical. They're going to be out for a year. I need someone to teach the courses for the fall and the spring. Visiting scholars, visiting instructors. This is another way to kind of beef up that teaching side of your CV. You could travel a lot doing this. I have seen people successfully do this for multiple years on end. It's a good way to really beef up the teaching side, not so much the research side. If your research is able to travel with you, Okay, you can do that. Maybe your research is mainly based on the computer. You can get your writing done, but you're really going to be focused on teaching in this kind of a role. Um, it is a good opportunity for those entry-level academics to kind of demonstrate their potential to maybe a future employer down the road. Also getting your name out there. We'll talk a little bit later about the importance of networking. This is a great way to do it. It gets you around the country, even internationally, to several different institutions. So the path to kind of that full professor, that stereotypical path, will generally look like moving from your assistant professor stage, it's that beginning level. You've done your PhD, you've probably done a postdoc or two, you've got some teaching experience there. It's that first step towards tenure. Your duties are probably going to be more on the teaching side rather than the research side off the bat. They tend to sling you right up in there into those classes. Um, Certainly advising, taking on other roles there. Ideally, you'll then move up into an associate professor. This is that kind of mid-career track right there. You have more experience. At this point, you will probably have made tenure if you're on a tenure track. Usually that's the next jump on up to. Then full professor will be that last stage there. These are usually the people teaching the 500 level courses. These are usually people who are teaching those seminar courses to the graduate students, those really upper division levels, and they're pretty much shifted fully into that research, a little bit at a higher level teaching. Realistically, they're doing a lot of grant writing. That's what professors will find fills out a lot of their job is searching for, applying for, and then putting together applications for funding. You will also then likely be in leadership positions. What we mean by that is when you start down this process, you're going for the interviews. Who do you think is going to be interviewing you guys? Non-rhetorical question. It's not going to be HR, I can tell you that. It will be other faculty, and it will likely be full professors on those search committees. It will be people kind of at the top of their game. So keep that in mind. All right, so let's talk a little bit about tenure. What does that look like? There's two different tracks here for professor. What we often call tenure track or what we call career track, non-tenure positions. So tenure is a lifetime employment opportunity with the university. This is a process that is years in the making. You will put together a tenure packet if you have a tenure track position, something you apply for out the gate. So when you are looking for positions, if you see something saying career track, that's a non-tenure track position. That's contractual work. That's anywhere from 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4, but usually 1 to 2 years. It's important to know that that doesn't mean once that contract's up, you're gone, you have to find a new job. It is very common for career track professors to stay 5, 10, 15 years at a university, especially if they're in more of an instructor position, if they're in more of that teaching load position. If you're doing a great job, they'll usually renew that contract, but you are a little more susceptible to funding issues, how we should say. If all of a sudden the legislature decides, nah, we're going to do a bit of a pay cut here, we're going to reduce some of that funding, career tracks, they can oftentimes be the ones who are a bit more exposed to that. There's usually no research requirements associated with the job. It also tends to mean that you generally don't have any time allotted for research, so you tend to do that on your own. You guys, as graduate students, are well versed with time management and managing the 60 to 70 hour work week. Well, that will start to continue as a professor, so keep that in mind. Like I said, it's mainly geared towards teaching. Tenure track, this is what a lot of people are after, right? We're after those kind of appointed positions. They are highly competitive. As I said, that process takes years. It's usually about 5 year process for a tenure application. What generally happens is you will enter into a tenure position. So you'll get an offer with a university. You're not tenured right away. You don't have that status right away. You go through a period of multiple years, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, where you're putting together a packet that includes all of the grant funding that you've been putting together, a huge component of it. The PhD students, the graduate students, you've been graduating, another large component of your tenure packet, publications that you yourself have been putting out, any extension work that you've been doing is also tends to be a part of this. Anything else that was part of that original contract that you were hired for, and then it's going to be evaluated by your colleagues. So essentially, as you have that search committee to get the job, you will have another committee later on down the road that's going to be evaluating your tenure packet of whether or not you receive that tenure status. It can happen that even professors at the end of that, they don't get tenure. This can be a bit of a stressful moment. One way to think of it is just like your PhD defense. It's kind of the culmination of everything you've been doing for multiple years. You've kind of all put it together. You're now presenting it. It's just at the next level. It's at that next stage. So let's go over some of the pros and cons here. Well, with those non-tenure track, they tend to get glossed over. People tend to push right past them. There's really no pressure to publish within these positions, right? These are teaching positions. If you really find yourself enjoying working with students, teaching the material, enjoying being in the classroom, doesn't mean you have to get out of academia. Um, Career track is really heavy on this side of the house. If you're good at it, your contract is more than likely going to be renewed. If you're able to handle the course loads, those course loads can be pretty heavy. Those teaching loads can be pretty heavy. Um, 3, 4, 5 classes a semester is not uncommon. So keep that in mind. Uh, the cons there is that you will generally earn less than the tenure track professors. You can make it up to those full professor status, but they're generally you're going to be earning less there. As I said before, you can be cut during financial problems. You can be exposed there, and there's no guarantee of that lifetime employment. But another way of thinking about this is that this is really not that different from many jobs out there in the workforce at large. So I don't want people to be scared off of these career track positions. That kind of vulnerability, it exists in virtually every industry, in every job. So you do need to be good at your job. You want to get a raise. You do need to be good at your job. You don't want to be let go. Generally, everyone here is pretty competent at what they do. So this is not as, don't let this be a scary thing. Don't let this dissuade you from really considering those non-tenure track positions. Obviously, the pros of a tenure track is that you do have the possibility for that lifetime employment. Um, your academic freedom, which is really what tenure is designed to protect, a shift in kind of administration, being able to say, no, we want to take research in this direction. Your academic freedom is generally preserved and protected with a tenure track position. That's really the reason why these things are created. So when we have a change in administration within the university, all of a sudden your research being on the chopping block. No, that's really why we created tenure track. It's pretty well documented how it occurs, how it goes about. You can look that up at various universities. The cons there, it's extremely competitive. This is what everyone is after in graduate school. The ones who want to go into academia, this is the #1 spot people are after. So keep that in mind. You're entering into a very competitive environment. People tend to be a little more hesitant to express themselves while they're pursuing tenure. The publishing and the teaching priorities, they're really going to be dictated by your institution. So they're going to set the standard for how much research you need to be pumping out. And ideally, you want to be exceeding that, right? You really want to not just be minimum threshold, you want to be going above and beyond it. People, while they're in the process of tenureship, have a tendency to be reluctant to try new areas of research. What if it doesn't turn out? So keep that in mind. Once you get tenure, people tend to, yeah, sure, we'll gamble on this new idea here. So as I said before, these aren't the only positions. So who else works in higher education? Things you can apply your experience to. There's a lot of different roles here within higher education that you can plug yourself into. Academic advising, student support services, coordinating various educational programs, higher education programs to help educate students maybe in various fields and industries, going into the medical field, going to the educational field, going into various aspects of business, disability services, hey, career services, tutoring, academic coaching. There are a lot of job opportunities that exist for people with your level of experience. Uh, if you want to talk about those in individual appointments, I would love to discuss those. Really, your time in grad school, I would encourage you all not just to focus on your academic chops, not just what you're learning in your field, but also focus on a lot of the soft skills and the other hard skills that you're developing if you really want to be flexible in terms of shifting where else can I go? If I don't go into academics, where else can I apply myself? Because you guys, like I said, you're getting a lot of experience and you're developing a lot of unique skill sets and a lot of common skill sets. You're gonna have a lot of experience with communications, with teamwork, with leading projects, with coordinating programs. You're going to have a lot of that experience. Think about how you might apply that elsewhere. Um, just to give you an overview of kind of what's out there, higher ed jobs, common place to look for jobs within higher education. You're seeing there's a lot on here. So don't think becoming an academic, that's my only job avenue. Nope, there's a lot out there. There is a whole world within higher education to explore. The university has thousands of employees. We are all supporting the mission of students, one of research, but primarily of students, of educating them and helping them succeed on their path. There's a lot of people involved in that big push. Um, for example, honors program director. Here's a perfect example. Minimum qualification, we'd like to see somebody with a master's degree for this job here. This is somebody who's directing a program in turn for honors students, helping them move through their pipeline there. I want somebody who's got 3 or more years of experience leading student engagement in higher education. Well, if you've been in grad school for 4 or 5 years and a PhD, hey, look at that right there. Preferred qualification, PhD. Have you been interacting with undergraduates in your lab? Have you been interacting with undergraduates in a classroom, teaching them, helping them advance in their academic and professional careers? Guess what? That's 3 or more years of experience leading student engagement in higher education environment. Demonstrated commitment. You're going to meet a lot of these qualifications. So that's what I mean about think about the skills that you're developing. You can't apply them outside of academia. You can't apply them outside of that professor job. You can get pretty creative with how you apply those skill sets. So academia, as you know, is an increasingly competitive job market. I don't think this is going to be a news flash to anyone here. I think it's kind of always has been this way for quite some time. Just an idea of what's out there. We've obviously seen a decrease in funding, unfortunately. Some of the statistics out there can be a bit alarming in terms, NSF saying, well, only about 3.5% of these PhDs are going to be able to find a tenure track position in that first 3 years after graduation. More competitive in the social sciences, so they were focused on STEM fields. There's a great article in Nature, great paper that came out of Nature about this a little while ago, talking about kind of the application effort that's seen there. Commonly, they interviewed search committees. Yeah, we're seeing well over 100 applications per job offer. Some are saying that they're getting as many as 200 applications for each job offer out there. So really, the secret sauce on how to be competitive, I put funding at the top. I put it there for a reason. Funding. Seriously, guys, focus on your grant writing, focus on your ability to acquire and successfully develop grants, apply them to your research. This is going to be a big one. Uh, that search committee, they're going to want to know, are you going to be able to, one, fund yourself, and two, are you going to be able to bring money into the program? That's going to be huge. What kind of goes hand in hand with that is publishing. Got to have funding in order to publish papers, in order to conduct research, to fund graduate students, because that will be a big part of your role. If you're becoming a tenure track professor, you're looking to be full-blown academic, you're going to be training graduate students. You're going to be funding them. You're going to be developing multi-million-dollar grants to bring on 3 or 4 PhD students, to bring on master's students. All of the work that they're publishing, the work that you're publishing, that's why people are doing those postdoc positions, get up those publication numbers. Networking is the next big one, probably as big as publishing. Publishing is kind of like it just has to be there. It's in the background. Networking, this is something I want you guys actively working on. Who here is going to conferences every year for their fields? I want to see, yeah, okay, great. I want to see everyone's hands kind of come up on those as much as you can, as much as you guys possibly can. Get to those conferences, get to workshops, virtual online workshops. For example, I came out of the evolutionary biology. I'm coming out of a STEM field there. I routinely attended virtual workshops hosted in places like Germany or Canada, all over the world. You start to know the people in your industry. You oftentimes hear it's not what you know, it's who you know. Really, what it should be is you do need to know the things. That is the minimum bar. I have to have you know the things. I have to have you publishing. But what's really going to get you over that bar is who you know. At the end of the day, search committees will be looking at someone going, can we work with this professor? Can we work with them as a colleague? Are they going to fit in well into our culture? Are they going to fit well into our department? Do we want them teaching our students? Are they going to align with the values and goals that we have set? This is where networking comes into play. Going to those conferences, establishing professional relationships, going to workshops as much as you can. I said visiting professor can be a great way to do this. Oh, you betcha. It's a good way to get your name out there into your field, into your industry. People are going to know who you are. So when they see those applications come in, you want them to recognize your name. You want them to kind of have, oh, yeah, I know this person. Excellent. Okay. I've already got a rapport with this individual. Networking is a huge one. Don't neglect it. Um, like I said, you do need to know the things. You do got to have the academic chops there. But what oftentimes puts people over the bar into a job, not just in academia, but across the board, it is that networking. Plus luck and persistence. So don't give up. This is a huge one with academics. You guys are all graduate students. You've been told a million times it's a marathon, not a sprint. This does not change. This is kind of just goes hand in hand with the field here. Be persistent. Don't get dejected. Understand that you're getting rejections. So is everyone else. This is a very, very common thing. It's a very common archetype within academia of, yep, didn't get that one. Yep, didn't get that one. You guys have all been rejected for grant applications. You guys have all been rejected for paper publications. It's no different here. You just got to be persistent. As with everything, try and get lucky, but don't give up. So, getting started, who are your people? Who are you guys in touch with? Your PIs are the number one person who's going to know you and your work through and through. These are going to be your recommendations, and you want your recommendations to be powerful ones. Um, Also, that networking. Who's going to put you onto jobs? Who's going to alert you to what's out there in the world? Expanding that professional network, one for recommendations, but two, just for hearing about opportunities that are coming on down the line. The more you know about a position, the more you know what exactly they're looking for, not just what's in the job description, but really what they're looking for in the candidate. If you've got that inside track, oh, so and so retired, but they really need to be able to teach this kind of a course, take over this program. I need them to work this facility, this genomics core here within our university. I'm going to need someone to fill that role. The more you know about that job that's opening, the better you're going to be able to plan and strategize for attacking that position and showing, hey, here's how I'm a perfect fit for it. Here's what I can do when you get into that interview stage there. So staying in touch, not just with advisors, not just people who can recommend you, but also your field at large. Who else might be able to write a letter for you, provide a reference, the colleagues that you have, and then think about what you're looking for. So as you're getting started, like I said at the very beginning here, there's lots of different roles within academia. Am I going after a tenure track position? Am I open to those non-tenure track, those career track positions? Do I want those? Do I want just screw it? I'm done doing research. I want to teach. Okay. Am I looking for an instructor position? Do I feel like I need to expand upon my network? I can start looking for those visiting professor positions. I can start looking for those short-term appointments in different places. I can get experience, expand my professional network there. What leg of your CV are you going to be able to lean most on? What are you going to be most competitive with? So kind of doing that breakdown of, okay, what do I have to operate with and what do I want to get? That's going to be that planning that we want to do early on. Uh, how often should I apply? All the time, as much as you possibly can. This is an article from Inside Higher Ed. They were talking about kind of success ratios. It's important to know. The authors even note in the study that is cited here, there's definitely some selection bias. There's some confirmation bias of the applicants that responded here. But on average, people were getting an offer after about 15 applications to 20 applications. Median, I think there was about, yeah, received one after 20 applications there. I would say it's probably a little bit higher than that. This is from 2023, so this is a few years old at this point. So keep that in mind. This is what I mean. Don't be discouraged by rejections. It's very common. Guys, you have all been writing your theses, you've all been writing your dissertations. They've come back with red ink on them. At this point, you're used to the whole, well, they didn't like that one, so I'm going to rewrite that paragraph there, or I'm going to reapply for that grant or resubmit that paper. Don't get dejected. Everyone's going through it. But this should help you give an idea of some of the numbers that we're dealing with here. Uh, Pace yourself. This is a lengthy, involved process. Just like everything else you've been doing, take your time with your individual applications. I know it's a lot of work. It does pay off, uh, but spend those hours, spend those times tailoring your applications as much as you can to each one of those positions. Again, like I was saying, what exactly are they looking for? If you have an inside loop, if you know something about that university, what are they looking for to fill that role? What shoes are they trying to fill there? So places to look. That's great. Cool. Where do I start this job search? Well, higher ed jobs is a very common one. You may or may not have heard this. This is a very common website inside higher ed as well. Chronicle of Higher Education is another outlet that puts out a lot of good information on the kind of status of higher education, generally speaking, but you will also see job offers up there. Um, the university HR pages themselves. If you know places that have programs that support your specific field, bookmark those places. Constantly be looking at those HR pages. You could be the first one to find out before higher ed jobs finds out about it. If you know the universities you're looking at, keep checking those university HR pages. Your individual working associations. I'm coming from, as I said before, the evolutionary field. There is a dedicated website for evolutionary jobs. It is terrible in terms of aesthetics, but it's very functional. It is a laundry list of links that a very dedicated professor devotes a lot of his time to. We all appreciate him. Constantly putting up academic postings and opportunities for people. There's likely someone in your field doing that. And if there isn't, you could become that person. Talking about expanding a network, talking about becoming a resource, talking about bringing added value to your community. I want someone like that on my team. Just throwing that out there. But a lot of times, your professional associations, I was in the arachnological world, so American Arachnological Society. That was my professional society. They were always posting PhD opportunities for grad students, for undergraduates. They would post postdocing opportunities. They would post faculty positions within evolutionary biology, within ecology. These things do exist out there. So check with your professional associations. They're not just great for going to conferences and going to the bar and hanging out with all the people in your field. They are also great for hearing about those job opportunities. So as I said before, the best method is always your network. I know I'm harping on it. It is really important. So let's move on to kind of preparing your application there. CV, this is really what we're talking about, right? We want our CVs to shine. We want them to be the best representation of us. Um, like I said, with that planning stage, am I tailoring this towards teaching or research? Those sections of your CV, they can move around. Just like a resume, they are malleable and modular. I can manipulate them. I can rewrite them to tailor them to a specific university, specific program. I can also elevate certain things. Generally speaking, funding right at the top. As I said before, that's that big, powerful, heavy one. We want that right at the top there. So usually it's a professional summary followed quickly by my funding. We can have our education up there. That needs to be a very small section. If you're applying for a professorship, yes, we know you have a PhD. So does everyone applying for this position. It is a minimum qualification. Um, that's not the leg we're standing on. It might be if it's a particular university. It might be if there's a connection I can make through my education. Oh, we really like working with people from that university. We have a lot of collaboration there. But that's going to be a rather quick entry there. Um, Previous postings. If you're later in your career, if you're already a professor or visiting professor or a lecturer, you can put some of those previous postings showing people, yep, I'm already doing the job. I've already got direct experience with this. I'm now looking to apply here. But really, funding needs to be right up there and highlight the money that you brought in. Tell me if you've got an NSF grant, put down that NSF grant number, put down the grant number, and show me the dollar value. I want that thing bolded. I want that thing right there in front of my face. Tell me if you were able to fund graduate students with it, if you're already a professor. Were you able to fund your own work? How long was that grant for? I want to see that. Have your CV reviewed by a lot of different academics there. Um, some of the people who will know how to put together CVs really well, you're working with them. They're called your PIs. They're also called your committee members. They're in academic postings, guys. Check out their CVs. They don't always have the greatest CVs. I will be frank. Some of them have been in their position for quite a while and they haven't touched them up in a while. But take note of what they've kind of highlighted and what they've really kind of put there at the top, what they're drawing attention to in their CVs. Uh, they're more than willing to share them with you. A lot of times they're all posted on their websites, they're posted on their pages. Check them out. Those are live examples of CVs that clearly have worked. So examine them. Um, Cover letters. These will often be accompanying either some sort of, not necessarily a cover letter in this field, more of a statement of intent or a statement of research is what will be accompanying your CV. This is a document that will certainly be tailored to each application. Do not just have a generic one that says, I enjoy my research, I like my research, I am funded, please hire me. No, I want you to tailor this to the specific positions. What is that department focused on in terms of their research goals? Is that university trying to achieve R1 status? Did you come from an R1 institution? Do you have experience at that level of performance? Is there I mentioned the genomics core. Are there resources that that university is very proud of? Do they have a type of facility or equipment piece that you have experience with, that they're very proud of, that they want that program to continue running? How will you plug yourself into that research community? Universities want their professors to collaborate. It greatly increases the chances of funding actually getting granted. So how will you be able to work with other faculty? How will you be able to work with other departments? Do you have collaborative research ideas? Have they previously been funded? Showcase yourself. This statement right here is really a way to take the giant highlights from your CV and add that story component to it, and then show them where you're going to take the university, how you're going to contribute to that mission. That's that intent stage. What is your research? How is it going to be powerful and move the field forward? And how is it going to move the university forward? How's it going to add prestige? Like I said, collaboration is often a big component of that. So how are you going to elevate that university and make it authentic? Really put yourself into this. A lot of people tend to throw buzzwords in there. They tend to try and just check boxes with these cover letters, with these statements of intent. Put yourself in there. Um, if this is all I have to go off of as a search committee, if I'm just looking at a CV and I'm looking at a statement of research or a statement of intent here, this is all I have to go off of. Show me who you are. Show me your personality. Show me, why you will be a great member of this team here. Don't just check the boxes. Teaching statements, these oftentimes include the applications to professor positions, to posting positions, certainly for those career track and certainly for instructional positions. Tell me some stories from the classroom. Show me specific examples of you teaching. Show me your teaching philosophy. Show me how you've enacted it. How have you overcome challenges in the classroom? What new ideas have you brought into the classroom? Show me your ability to teach a diverse set, the breadth of your experience. Why do you enjoy teaching? This is very common within the application process. Candidates will talk about how they want to develop their own skill sets. They'll talk about what they want to do. Tell me how you're going to make me better as a university. Tell me how you're going to make an impact with my students. Tell me what strategies you use that will really help my students succeed. That's what's going to be key in a teaching statement there. Research statement, as I said before, make it powerful. How are you going to help the university? But tell me a quick story. Where have you been? Where are you headed? What are the research questions that are driving you there? If you have any sample syllabi, these can be very helpful to include. Like I said, don't just tell me, but show me. If you show me a well laid out course syllabi, how you have organized content, how you presented it to students, I'm going to see that you have experience doing this. That's going to be proof in the pudding right there of, yeah, you have definitely taught, you know how to do this. So yeah, if you've got one, go ahead and include that with your packet. Demonstrate your ability to teach. And then online presence here. Who here is managing their org ID? Excellent. All right. What about their Google Scholar profile? Excellent. Okay. ResearchGate? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. What about a personal website? A GitHub? Anybody have a GitHub page? Excellent. Yeah. GitHubs are great places to put all of your research, great places to demonstrate, all sorts of things. I've seen some pretty fancy GitHubs out there. People can really take them to the max. Having a personal website, you can include that in your application packet. Include your GitHub links there. Build out your LinkedIn profile as well. Any other social media aspects. Nowadays, we really live in an interconnected ecosystem of jobs here. And what that means is that there's not just one way to advertise yourself. I have seen professors who have community involvement Instagrams where they're getting the community involved in their research. Universities look at that and go, I can plug that person into extension. I know they're going to be able to thrive and help bring the community in, get the community on board with us. We like having a positive image with the people who pay taxes that then fund the university. We like that. We want here in the state of Idaho, we've had a reduction there, right? If we have people from the community going, no, no, we have to fund our higher education. They do good things for us. That's a big component of extension. This is where some of that outreach can come into play there. That can carry weight with those search committees there. So think about your job, not just in terms of your research, not just in terms of your teaching. How are you advancing the university's overall mission? Typical timeline here. You guys are probably aware of this. It's going to be fairly similar to what you went through for your graduate school applications there. Ideally, you're networking over the summertime. You're going to conferences. You're seeing what's out there. You're seeing where the opportunities are coming up. You're doing those workshops. As fall rolls around, we're now polishing up our application materials for the places we're looking to apply for. Any postings we've kind of heard through the grapevine might be coming up there. As those applications start to pop up, as postings start to pop up in the fall time, we're going to put together our packets, create those cover letters, those research statements, finish up our CVs, gather up our sample syllabi, update our contact references. I will tell this to freshmen. I will tell this to alumni who've been in the workforce for 30 years. Please contact your references. Do not just spring this on them at the last second. Let them know that you're doing applications. Let them know to expect a phone call, to be available. Just give them a heads up, guys. Make sure they're aware that you're doing the application process there. But yes, starting to do these applications. October, November, we're tailoring them. Like I said, spend hours with each application. Really, as much as you possibly can, tailor it to that unique university posting and position itself. November, December, we're now waiting. We're preparing for our interviews. January, May, this is when the interviews come in. I think I'm running a little bit over time here. Sorry about that, Michael. I'm going to kind of start to push forward a little bit. Interviewing pipeline, we're going to submit our applications. We're going to get them reviewed first by HR. They're just checking boxes. So make sure we're hitting those minimum qualifications. At this point, the committee is going to do a first round of review. They're going to see just who they want to move forward to interviewing with. First round of interviews, most likely over Zoom. This is not going to be a destination interview. This is more than likely could be over the phone, almost exclusively over Zoom nowadays. Subsequently, they're now going to decide who they want to come for the in-person interviews. This is where you will go do a visit. This is usually an all-day event. So keep in mind, this is not just a 1 hour thing. This is you're flying out there. They'll usually fly you out there. You will do a tour. You will oftentimes give a presentation either to the faculty. It's usually open house. It's to the faculty, to the graduate students, to the undergraduates. Who here has ever seen one of these? That's what this was a part of. That person was there all day long going through the tour. There will be a final deliberation with the committee. That's when offers will be extended. This is a long drawn out process. Keep that in mind. So
Yeah,
before you
that's actually
go,
something I hear people. I wonder if you could clarify that. It's like people sometimes like the time frame of this. Like what are we talking about in between each of these steps? Like
okay,
I hear
yes,
students talk about
yeah,
that a lot.
yeah. So we went over the big timeline there. That's submitting around the fall there. The review of those applications. Really, we're starting to hear back usually in that spring semester. That's usually about when this will start to happen. Spring rolls around. You guys have seen this. We get visiting professors sometimes in December, sometimes at the end of the year, but usually coming in January, usually coming in the spring semester. That's when they're doing those tours. That's when we're giving those presentations. There'll be another final deliberation that can take weeks to maybe up to a month. It's usually not any longer than that. They're trying to get through those very quickly because they're usually trying to bring you on board for the next year, right? Just like your grad school, they're trying to bring you on in the fall. So they want that summertime to get you up to speed. They want that summertime to get all the onboarding stuff out of the way. They want that summertime for you to get situated into your office, getting prepared for that fall semester. So it's usually before the summertime comes, usually done within that spring semester. Uh, know the institution. I said how important this is. Know what the department structure is. Who's going to be interviewing you? What's important to them? You guys can do that kind of research. That's where that networking comes into play here. What's the student makeup look like? Who are the faculty collaborating with already? Who are they already talking about? Like I said, be able to plug yourself into that department there. Prep for a presentation. Have great questions ready. Um, you can ask them, is the department trying to enact any initiatives? Is there any big grant pushes that they're looking to do? Is there any facilities that they really want to get up and off the ground? Any projects they want to get going? Extension work. Um, have some questions that relate to them. Time of the day, storytelling. Be cohesive with your storytelling there. Uh, Dress for success, guys. This is very important in academics. Put in the effort. Seriously, you want to dress as best. The rule of thumb here is you want to be the best dressed person in the room. It's okay if you're not. You want to set the bar. You want to set that standard. You're showing that you're taking this very seriously. You're appreciating their time there. So be the best dressed there and take notes. Take extensive notes. Who did you meet with? What topics did you discuss? Potential questions that come up. Be prepared to meet a lot of people, not just the committee there. You guys have seen this. You guys have probably met with prospective hires. You're going to be shaking a lot of hands. This is why taking notes is very important. Graduate students, certainly. So common topics of discussion, obviously your research, but has it fit within the university? Has it fit within the overall college? Like what we've been talking about this whole time, how are you going to contribute to the team there? How will you collaborate? What resources will you provide? Will you be able to develop? That's that grant money. Are you going to be able to develop and contribute to any of those kind of larger programs that they already have, something that you can get off the ground there? Your funding will certainly be a topic of discussion. How integral to the grants that you're on have you been? You really want to talk about your role in those grants. Were you leading that grant process? Was your research critical to that grant process? Did you come up with novel research, the preliminary data that really got that grant off the ground? Timeline of your current applications from your CV for those grants. What does that look like? Are you routinely applying and getting grants? That will be a topic of discussion. And like I said, they want to know how you're going to fit in. There will be a lot of back and forth kind of informal play of, who are you? What do you like? What are your interests? Are you going to fit well with our team? Are you going to jive? Are you going to get along with us? How are you going to fit within the culture of the department there? These are the intangible assets. It's a great Nature paper that I was showing you guys earlier. Recruitment of academics is more holistic than many think. Cambridge there, people tend to forget about the intangibles. Publications that grants, it just gets you into the interview room, but it's not going to win at the end of the day there. The results of that study, they really suggest that committees are seeking candidates who will be good colleagues. They want to be able to work with them. Affability is a phrase that gets used there. Like I said, they want to know if they can work with you. This is important. That's where networking comes into play. Stay in contact. There is an after the interview process. Send thank yous to that search committee. They've taken a lot of time to do this. Stepped away from their research. They've stepped away from their teaching responsibilities, taking time out of their day. Those thank yous really do convey a lot of that genuine authenticity that we're after. Be appreciative. Anyone that you've met, made a connection with there, maintain a positive outlook. Like I said, this is a long process. There will be rejections. Think about, what did you learn? Those conversations that you have, how might have you approached those topics differently? Do that sort of debriefing, that after action review of what happened there. Is there anything you would do differently? Where do you think you had a weak spot? How can you beef up that weak spot? How can you overcome that? How can you support that? That's why your notes are very helpful. Taking notes like, I didn't answer that very well. I'm going to think about, how I can kind of overcome that question next time. Would you change anything? There is no perfect application. There is no perfect presentation. There's always doing better, doing better, doing better. And keep searching. Like I said, don't give up. Keep a positive attitude. Keep searching there. So I think I went a little bit over there with time. Mike, are we still good?
We're still good.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right. Uh, Kind of sped through there at the end there. I just want to make sure I get all that information into you guys. So thank you so much. I'm going to take questions now. Yeah, so if anybody has anything specific, please let them rip. I'll take some questions.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you for all of this information. I appreciate that. And actually, there is a very important question I cannot answer. That one, which belong for the interview. Um, I'm suffering to find a diplomatic question or something look like a real answer from my side. When they ask, um, um, I mean the committee, when they ask uh, about my fund, how can I collect my fund and mm, what you expect to support our university? Um, if you have any answer or ideas about that, I will be happy. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. So talking about your research funding then,
Yeah, yeah, and the budget.
and the budget.
How can I collect the budget?
I think I'm a little confused in terms of, how are you going to be able to talk about your research funding, or are you asking about how you're going to get funding from them?
No, if they employed me, how can I collect the funds to the university to support the department and it will be used for my research, my students' research,
Yes.
as assistant professor.
Okay. Michael, did you have something to?
well, I think yeah, I'm wondering if you're asking specifically about where it is that you go seek out those funds. And so I mean, it largely depends on the field that you're in. If you're in the sciences, you would probably procure those funds from the NSF or the NIH or any number of large federal institutional funding bodies. If you're in the humanities, the NEA or NEH are also large institutional funding bodies. Those are things you typically procure on your own. I guess there are places that the department might want you to focus upon if they're like trying to get. I know we have within, just even with our in our own college, we'll shoot for certain funding sources we haven't had before. Maybe some people are more familiar with certain funding bodies than others, but that wouldn't be, you know uh, that's a pretty big question. I don't know if I'm understanding it
Uh,
correctly. Eric, is that how you understood that as
let,
well?
let me to clarify or re-say it, my question again. Do we have general or some organization who supports the professors to and so they can be build their budget and support the department? Do we have the I need the names or some places so I can prepare my answer when I made an interview.
Hmm. Um, well, when it comes to when it comes to funding, the universities are going to be concerned about how you're contributing to the university overall. Obviously, research foundations will take a share of funding that comes in that's attached to your lab. But even funding your graduate students removes a burden from the university. If you have funding that's directly for the graduate students, that supports them, that's one TA position less that they have to fund. That so even then that is contributing to their mission. That's helping them of great. Your research lab will have some of that independent funding. Okay, cool. We're going to be able to bring in more PhDs. We're going to be able to bring in more graduate students. Framing your funding that way is a very helpful way to kind of have that conversation with the university of this is how I'm going to help contribute here.
You know that there is a very famous question in the interview. The question is how you will collect your funding as assistant professor. I need a specific answer, and it will be as a diplomatic answer.
How you will collect your funding. Yeah, I guess I'm not entirely sure where that question is kind of coming from or headed off to. Uh,
Could I answer? See if
yes,
maybe I
yeah.
understand. Um, so, sir, are you pretty much asking that once you've been approved for the funding, how then you'll be able to receive the funds to use in your research at the university? Is that what you're trying to ask?
No, before that will be in
So,
the interview when the
okay,
committee make an interview as assistant professor.
right.
They will ask about the funding and about my characteristics or my features for this
Mm-hmm.
department. What I will add as a new member.
Yes.
So they need to know what I can do or what I can help the department with the funding from outside the university. So this is what I mean exactly.
Okay. So, how you will specifically help provide funding to the university using your skills?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Does that make a little bit more sense on what he's
Yeah.
asking for? Okay.
Yeah, I think
Well,
so.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would just like in answering that question, I would just come to the interview with experience that demonstrates your capacity to be able to procure that funding. And then if you have a trajectory, right, for how you will continue to procure funding like that, right? It's like I mean,
Yeah.
it would need to be tailored to your specific area of research. They're probably bringing you on because you do research a certain thing, right? Because you are able to break into a certain area that the department wants, right? So I don't know, maybe you're an entomologist
Yeah.
and you study a particular, subfield of entomology. and you have a history of procuring funding from the relevant funding agencies in that area, right? And you have established a relationship in some way with maybe you project directors and different people within those major funding agencies. That would be something to bring up, right?
And that's what I
Oh,
was talking about with the
yeah.
CV there of that kind of timeline of funding applications, showing your ability to get a lot of that preliminary research funded and then follow through with other grants that kind of tack on to that area of research, directions you can take the research in. These are viable directions of research that I can move forward in and secure funding through these different institutions for showing them your potential to bring in more money through different areas. I want to move on to some other questions. Just make sure I get other people a chance to ask some questions. Ray, I think you had a question. You've had your hand up. Is this you
Yeah.
asking this here about applying this to other areas outside of like STEM?
No, I was actually trying to figure out what the previous gentleman was
Okay.
asking. That's what I thought originally. Um,
Okay.
but I kind of have it's another industry specific question. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the boat right now where I would like to become a professor, but it's within theater and the performing arts. So the issue that I think I'm running into is where more experience is wanted, but in order to get the experience, I need to get the positions. so
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out best guidance for when that situation is happening. Do we um, is this when making a YouTube channel and and doing some
Yeah.
short films and
Yeah.
skits and stuff works, or like just your opinion on what next steps would
Yeah.
be?
Yeah. So this will, as Michael has said before, this will obviously differ widely by industries, by fields. A lot of what I've said today does translate over to other industries. I've tried to keep it as broad as possible, or sorry, as their disciplines as broad as possible. When it comes to getting more experience, that can even be from industry. So if you end up, if you're able to get work within like dance troops, productions, things like that, that actual industry experience, being able to bring a few years that, putting that into the CV of, okay, as an academic, I also have experience with this this discipline, dance, theater. I have it in the private sector. I have it with not just the academic side of the house, and that's something I can bring to the students. Not every student is going to be on an academic track, so being able to give that experience, convey that experience to the student can be a desirable quality in a professor. When it comes to building up the academic side of your experience, this is where those kind of instructional positions can come into play, those non-tenure track positions, the visiting professor positions. With those, they're a little bit more that lower hanging fruit. They can be a little easier to get than the tenure positions. So if I can secure some of those, I can now show a history of academic postings and I can get the experience that they're after of, okay, now I have 5+ years, 6+ years in an academic posting. Now I'm applying for maybe the tenure track positions. Like I said, the visiting professors, the instructor positions, they can be a little bit easier to get if you look at maybe more primarily teaching universities, focusing on the teaching aspect side of this. Within the performing arts, I'm not entirely sure how much, I don't believe there's as much research as is done there. There's still some, not as much, I think. A lot
But
of
there is like,
teaching.
but there is like NEA money, like National Endowment for the Arts, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of funding within that area. And then the other thing too is like I don't know anybody in the humanities who didn't ride the adjunct train for a while, I think, right? It's like
Yeah.
that's yeah. So
Yeah, very common. Before you actually secure one of the, if you look at your committee members, if you look at your colleagues, if you look at your CVs, Michael's right. You will see a lot of their academic postings before they hit those tenure track positions, adjunct status, instructor status, career track positions. Trying to grab those can help build up that experience too, but don't discount going
yeah.
into the various industries.
Arts fellowships are also a way to get your foot in the door as well. So like, there will be like residencies or fellowships that can provide, and some of them have a teaching component as well. you have to move around for those sometimes, which is a little bit tricky for people, but that's another way people will do it is they'll be a fellow, um, for periods of time. So
Does that help, Ray?
It really does. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, of course. I was just scanning the chat here, see if we had any other questions that got lobbed up. How would this apply in the biological or environmental field? Yeah, this is, as Michael said there, a lot of what we talked about today really spans a lot of the disciplines here. It is a marathon, not a sprint. Uh, Moving your way up, a lot of times people do not land into those tenure track professorships right off the bat. Those are generally positions people aren't jumping straight off into, getting into an adjunct position, getting into a visiting professor, getting into a fellowship, getting into a postdoc, building up, padding up your CV before you're able to start getting offers on those tenure track positions. It's very common.
awesome. Well, thanks so
Yeah.
much, Eric. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of
This is a
course.
really good
Thank you
one.
guys for
Yeah,
attending.
cool. Well, everyone have a good day and yep, say and see you at the next one. So, all right,
All right.
bye everybody.
Take care.